Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today we are back with my third annual nail polish awards. So I created the nail polish awards a couple of years ago as a way to celebrate some of the great and maybe not so great releases that we got throughout the year. Like last year, I am also going to be sharing your top 3 winners, and this year I also included 8 additional awards. So as I'm sure you can tell, this is a very long video. Make sure you have some popcorn or a nice little snack. As always, I will have timestamps for everything in the description box down below, and I will save more of my thoughts for the end, but for now, let's just get into the awards. As you probably know, I am a big seasonal wearer, so we of course are starting with the seasonal awards. Now, I know technically we start the year in the winter season, but more often than not, the first actual collections that we see are for spring. I feel like I'm one of the few people who still loves spring collections because I just really enjoy pastels and lighter colors. And I find that spring is also so fitting for those like sheer, ethereal, magical kind of shades. And while these were far from sheer, they definitely still were super light, very fairy-like kind of colors, which are my favorite. So my winner this year is Rogue Lacquer's Ostentatious collection. It was this absolutely beautifully soft lineup of these almost chrome-like shimmers. They were so pigmented, so opaque, so impressive overall. They took my breath away and are just like the epitome of soft spring shades that I love. But no surprise, when it came to the voters, the #1 collection was ILNP Wildflowers. This definitely was going to be my honorable mention because it was just a beautifully bold lineup of colors, obviously inspired by blooming wildflowers, and it just has so much color and life, which I really do appreciate because it is so much more colorful than like the softer shades that we get in spring. In second place, we got Mooncat's Seasons of Persephone collection, which was another stunning lineup of shades that I will be talking about later. And not too far behind that one, in third place, we had another Mooncat. This was for their Songs of Sirens collection. That was also really stunning. Definitely a fan of the mermaid under the sea kind of aesthetic with a little bit of like a darker vibe. Definitely very Mooncat. I am kind of surprised that I didn't see any of like the earlier Cirque collections because another potential honorable mention was going to be the Encore collection, which was like the soft ballet inspired one. Though I guess now that I think about it, I do remember a lot of people thinking that was boring and it was just me and like 3 other people who enjoyed those super soft shades, but I don't know, they just feel so perfect for spring. Next, we have the award for Best Summer Collection. I love summer for nail polishes because they're just so bright and colorful. I mean, obviously I love like every season and so many nail polishes, but I definitely do skew towards the brighter shades in general, and summer is when we get those really fun and playful kind of shades. No surprise, my winner this year is going to ILNP's Electric Summer collection. This was a beautiful, bold, and colorful lineup of these vibrant magnetics that had these contrasting shimmers that were so glowy. They just answered all of my like prayers because earlier in the year when I did my video on my favorite magnetics, I noticed that almost all of them in my collection were black or just had really dark bases, and I was just kind of missing like brighter magnetics. And I feel like the Electric Summer collection just went above and beyond any expectations that I had. They just absolutely nailed it. You guys all agreed too though, because this was also your first place winner for Best Summer Release. And a little far behind that, we actually had 3 collections tied for second place. They were Holo Taco's Rock Candy collection, the Mixed Emotions collection, and Polish for Days Night Glow collection. I think it was really cool to see Night Glow tie in second place with two Holo Taco collections, because if you don't know, Night Glow was basically the part 2 of their Day Glow collection last summer that were these really gorgeous like neon kind of shimmers. So getting a part 2 of that was just so satisfying. I definitely am a big fan of getting like an extended version of a really great collection. And then Mooncat's collab with Powerpuff Girls came in third place, which I can also respect. I mean, I definitely do love fun, colorful jellies for summer, and these were so cute with all the flakies and glitters. I feel like summer is also especially nostalgic, so having this collection come out, I think in June, was just the perfect timing. I do want to give an honorable mention though to Cracked Polish's Italy collection, which I believe came out in August, which I know is technically still summer, but it's at the very tail end of summer, especially for me specifically. And I think the shades were a little bit on the darker, like muted or kind of rusty, earthy side. So I feel like they were perfect for that time of year where we transition from the hot, bright colors of summer into those more earthy, rusty tones of fall. And that collection was just so stunning. It didn't have any like specialty finishes from what I remember, like no shimmers. I think there were, you know, some crullies or jellies, but just having like these beautiful colors were so satisfying. I just had to give them a shout out. Next, we have the best fall release. And I feel like I say this all the time, but I really believe that fall is the best season for nail polish. I know that I am biased because I'm an October baby, but I feel like we can all agree that fall collections have such beautiful, rich, jewel tone kind of colors. And there was one collection that gave us all of that, and that was ILNP's Vineyard collection. I know it's no secret that ILNP is my favorite brand, and these finishes in particular of like those hollow flaky jellies are my top favorite from ILNP. So if you think I'm being like biased or anything, this was also your #1 winner. Definitely happy to see that, but also just not surprised because ILNP does really, really beautiful fall collections. But in second place, we had Mooncat's Fallen collection. And this was gonna be my honorable mention because I absolutely loved that collection and the range of shades and finishes. Mooncat definitely doesn't do like seasonal releases like a lot of other brands do, and I really appreciate that, but I love how this collection specifically transcends just fall and it extends into winter and spring as well, because we have this overarching theme of like death and revival that starts with like the death and decay that we see in the fall season, the long dark nights that we get in winter, but then the lightness of spring. And I just really love that so much about this release. So I am not surprised to see it in second place. And in third place, not too far behind, was Holo Taco's Dark Academia collection. This was another fantastic lineup with beautiful cream shades, super stunning specialty finishes, bonus points that it was released right along like back to school season. I think it's just so satisfying. I really loved how dark and moody that collection was, but it was like a little sophisticated too with some of those colors. Next, we have one of the new awards for this year, and that is for Best Halloween Release. So obviously I think Halloween is such a fun holiday, especially for nail polish collections, because we really see such a range of bright, almost neon kind of shades to the typical or expected darker, vampy kind of shades. And this year I was definitely torn between those two aesthetics, but I would say that my first place winner goes to ILNP's Coven collection. That one is obviously on the darker side with a more witchy sort of aesthetic, which I really loved. I mean, ILNP also just always nails it with their Halloween collections in general, but I think having that more witchy focus this year just was so satisfying to see, especially with the colors and the names. They just were perfect. You guys all agreed with that too, because they were also your first place winner. But in second place, you guys voted for Cracked Polish's Toxic Wasteland, which was the other collection that I was like really torn between. That one is obviously on the other end of the spectrum, being this much brighter shade range of almost neon kind of colors that I think are just so fun for Halloween. So I was really happy to see this one get second place for you guys too. And in third place, we saw Polish for Days Something Wicked, which was another really great lineup. I feel like that one definitely had some really fun kind of formulas, and even the color story was really interesting and not like super traditionally spooky. I definitely remember being tempted to grab some of those shades myself because they're just really gorgeous, but I never did. But I am happy to see them reach the podium. Most recently, we moved into the winter season, which arguably is my least favorite season, but I definitely do use nail polish as a way to carry me through those dark, cold kind of days. And I think the collection that is going to do that best for me this year is Holo Taco's Underglow collection. Now, I know this might be kind of controversial because I know not everybody has had great experiences with this collection, but from my experience, my personal taste, this is exactly what I want to see for winter. I feel like the color palette was so beautifully balanced with these like light, airy kind of shades and these darker, slightly more muted colors to really ground that like cold kind of winter feeling, but still making it very pretty. The softer kind of shimmers that have this subtle glow, I think also worked perfectly with those shades, where it almost reminds me of the light bouncing off of icicles and you just like feel this chill in the air, but like the sun is shining. It is just so satisfying to me. Some of you guys definitely did agree with me though, because the Underglow collection got third place according to voters. And in second place, we got KB Shimmer's Perfectly Seasoned. This was another super fun lineup. I just love KB Shimmer's collections and how varied they are, because there's always like this really great range of shades and finishes where they maybe aren't always super cohesive, but it's really one of those like there's something for everybody type of collections, and I feel like that's especially true for this one. And in first place, your winner was ILNP's Eternal collection. This one I thought was really pretty, definitely also capturing those really light, icy vibes for winter. So I can totally understand this winning. I mean, some of those shades made it onto my winter favorites wheel this year, so I'm also going to be reaching for those. And the last seasonal award goes for Best Holiday Release. I just love a cute, festive little themed collection, and we see a couple of those every year, but this year my winner goes to Cracked Polish's Food Coma collection. I know this color palette is definitely like very traditional Christmas colors, and I know that can be overdone because, you know, we tend to see reds, greens, and golds for the holidays year after year, but there is just something so well executed about this collection that it just immediately filled me with like nostalgia, because I feel like the red and green were the exact shades of ornaments that my mom would decorate the tree with. The white reminded me of that white fluff used for like the little Christmas villages, and obviously for snow outside, but you know, it hasn't really snowed that much in the recent years. So I feel like this lineup just really captured that like nostalgic magic of the holiday season so perfectly for me. And apparently for you too, because this was also your #1 winner, which again, I'm not surprised. I mean, I guess maybe this year we didn't get as many holiday releases, because in second place we had ILNP's Home for the Holidays, which actually came out last year, so technically they shouldn't be allowed to like enter for this year. I only recently reviewed them this year because I didn't get a chance to do it last year, so maybe that's where some of the confusion is, but that was a really solid collection too. It was much more understated with, yes, the typical or expected red and green, but then the rest of the shades were these beautiful, cozy, warm neutrals. And I've mentioned it so many times before that I love seeing browns for like holiday releases because they really lean into like the baking and like freshly made cookies aspect, which is kind of like overlooked. So even though they technically shouldn't have been a part of this year's awards, I will allow it because it was a fantastic collection. And in third place, even though I also don't think this is a holiday themed collection, you guys voted for ILNP's Eternal, which again, maybe just goes to show that we didn't have that many holiday releases this year. But either way, this is still a cute collection that I can see working for the holidays too. Moving on to the rest of the awards, the first one we have is for Best Collaboration. Throughout the year, we sometimes see these collabs come out and they aren't always with other nail polish brands. Sometimes they're with food or drink kind of brands or even like movies or TV shows. And I definitely am a fan of those because I feel like it just lets the brands be really creative and maybe more specific with what they could reference in the collab. Because I mean, I definitely am a sucker for like a really good reference and just nailing that execution. So this year I would pick Cirque Color's collaboration with Jarritos as the best collaboration. Jarritos, if you don't know, is a Mexican soda company that has this beautiful, delicious range of soda flavors that are all fruity and colorful. And Cirque's collaboration with them featured 5 jellies inspired by these soda flavors and colors, as well as 1 iridescent topper that, if I remember correctly, was supposed to reference like the carbonated bubbles in the soda. I'm a huge jelly lover and I also really love Jarritos, so it was just so cool to see this collaboration. Even the packaging of the cartons were so beautiful and well done. And I would also want to give some bonus points to the PR packaging that we received because it came in this like little 6-pack container. Just made it so fun. But obviously, I can't ignore the fact that there was some controversy with that release. I have already talked about it like at length in multiple videos, and you know, just to be clear, I do not agree with Cirque's photoshopping, their gaslighting. I don't love how they handled that. And don't get me wrong, it definitely has put a bad taste in my mouth, but removing all of that and just focusing on the end result of the collaboration, I hate to say it, but it is still my favorite from the year. I know a lot of you understand where I'm coming from though, and also agree with me because they were your second place winner for this year. Your first place winner goes to Mooncat with their Powerpuff Girls collab. That one definitely was super cute and I knew it was gonna win because I feel like it was just so popular. I mean, to be fair, I definitely was very excited when it came out too, but I feel like I ended up not really reaching for them as often as I thought I was going to, but I should obviously fix that because they were really pretty shades. And in third place, we actually have another tie, this time between OPI's collab with Wicked, which I feel like came out recently, as well as Caitlin Swatch's collab with Cuticula. I was planning on giving Caitlin an honorable mention because it was just so cool to see her collab with Cuticula. This collection specifically was like focused on SpongeBob, which was so fun, again, with like the references. And I'm a big fan of Caitlin and her tastes definitely align with mine. So her polishes were so beautiful. So it was really cool to see so many of you guys vote for her too. Unfortunately, I'm one of those few people who have like not seen Wicked, even the original like Broadway musical. So I feel like I am kind of missing out on the hype for that release, but I will have to go back and watch a couple of reviews from the collection because from what I remember, there definitely were some standout polishes. It's just kind of hard for me to get excited about something when I don't like fully know the references. Kind of similar to the Star Wars collection that Mooncat just came out with. Obviously, a lot of you guys entered the submissions before that collection even released, so I'm really curious to know how many of you guys would have voted for that collab instead of the Powerpuff Girls one. Moving on, we have a few new awards. The first one goes to Best Cream Polish. Now, creams get a bad rap because a lot of people just call them boring since they don't have any shimmers or flakies or any kind of special effect, but I think a good cream is so satisfying. I feel like we actually got a decent amount of them this year, but I would say that my top winner is Holo Taco's Headhunter. This was the dark hunter or forest green cream from the Dark Academia not too long ago, and it is just the perfect shade of green, especially for this theme. I was so impressed with how well they just nailed the color, and the formula obviously was impeccable, where it was basically a one coater for me at least. And a lot of you guys love this one too because it was also your winner. It won by a decent amount, and in second place we did see another Holo Taco cream. It was Perry Social from the Cookies and Cremes bundle. I was kind of surprised to see this take second place, but I guess it's not too surprising since it is like a really beautiful periwinkle cream. Super flawless again, like you just can't go wrong with that kind of color, especially for the spring. But even more surprising, in third place we saw Cracked Polish's Ooze from the Toxic Wasteland collection for Halloween. Now don't get me wrong, I love a good neon lime green, but I guess I was just kind of surprised to see this one take third place because I don't remember having a great experience with the formula, where at least to me that's definitely a very important factor in voting for the best cream. Obviously the Holo Taco shades are super flawless, like almost one coaters, and I just didn't get that with Ooze, but the color is definitely super gorgeous, so maybe that's why it placed. Next we have the award for Best Trend. Now, this is basically any kind of finish or color combination that we saw a lot of throughout the year, but we never got tired of it. We just wanted to see it more. To absolutely no one's surprise, my winner goes to a blue shimmer in a pink base. I just adore this color combination, shimmers in general. I know we technically saw a lot of them starting last year, but we still got a decent amount of them this year, and it's just one of those finishes that I still want to see. And a lot of you guys did agree because this specific combination got third place, with shimmers in general taking second place. Your first place winner for Best Trend went to Magnetic Velvet Nails. I was so surprised to see this take first place, especially over shimmers, mainly because I feel like I've seen so many people say that they just hate magnetics. They're pretty time consuming to do. Even for me personally, while I adore how plush velvet nails can look, chances are I would just grab a shimmer polish over a magnetic. So it was pretty wild to see this one take first place by a decent amount too. A lot of the other write-ins also did go for other finishes like crushed hollows or jellies or reflectives. So I think for next year, instead of calling it Best Trend, I'll just call it Best Finish or Finish of the Year. In true Libra fashion, we have to balance out the good with the not so good. So next up, we have the Worst Trend Award, which I'm pretty sure on the survey I called Who Keeps Asking for This, because it's a finish or a color that we just don't want to see anymore. It was kind of hard for me to pick a winner because I don't really keep up with a lot of trends, so I just defaulted to going with a worst finish of the year. And I kind of hate to say this, but I think the worst trend of 2024 were thermal polishes. Mooncat and Holo Taco released their very first thermals this year, and a lot of people were excited for them. I can understand that, you know, they had some cool color combinations. Thermals in general are cool, but the biggest thing is that they just don't last. And I worry with how popular they might seem that we're gonna see more of them. And It's just not something I want to see more of, but I do feel bad choosing this because thermals can also be really cool, especially to people just starting out their collections, because you're basically getting 2-in-1 polishes. So I know that they have a place in people's collections, and you know, everybody's tastes are different, but I don't know. I'm just saying, as somebody with a larger collection, this is something I wouldn't want to see more of. And I guess I shouldn't feel too bad saying this because you all voted for thermals as your first place winner too. And this one won by a landslide. Coming later in second place, we actually had reflective glitters, which I don't even want to talk about because I love reflective glitters. And in third place, we had a tie between magnetics and pearlescent polishes. Obviously understand pearlescent polishes because they can just not be the most flattering, but this is where I'm just so shocked at seeing magnetics place for the worst trend, but also win for the best trend. So it's just kind of crazy. This next award might be familiar if you've watched my previous award videos. This is for the most disappointing release. Now, in the past, Cirque has had the misfortune of winning this award 2 years in a row, but this year, they are not my winners. Not even my honorable mention. It pains me to say this, but my winner for most disappointing release is ILNP's opening night collection. I know, you really hate to see it. I mean, I hate saying it out loud because, as I'm sure you know, ILNP is my favorite brand. I love a lot of what they put out, but this collection was just not it for me. And surprisingly, my honorable mention also goes to ILNP for their Cabana collection. This was another letdown because I really loved their mood boards for this collection, but I just feel like the shades themselves didn't really live up to the mood board, if that makes sense. When Cabana initially released and I just saw how I felt about it, I knew it was going to be my winner for most disappointing, unless, you know, Cirque came through at the last minute. But lo and behold, it was another ILNP release that ended up taking the crown. When it came to the voters though, in third place, we had Cirque's Jarritos collection, which I can definitely understand that. I mean, obviously I did talk about the marketing mishap that happened with it, but even as a collection, like while I do love the jellies, I did immediately have that thought of like, Cirque already has a massive jelly catalog, and I was already familiar with like Jarritos flavors, so I was curious to see what kind of colors they were gonna go with because they likely were going to dupe themselves, and they pretty much did with the yellow specifically. So I can definitely understand that being extra disappointing, especially because collaborations with Cirque are just even more expensive than their usual releases. In second place, we had Holo Taco's Rock Candy collection. And I can also understand this one because initially when I reviewed it, I was also left wanting more. I definitely feel conflicted about that release because I recently talked about it in my Holo Taco collection tier list video, and I did give it an A because I feel like looking at it within the Holo Taco bubble, it was a really nice release. Like, it was definitely new and different to their catalog. But once we pop that bubble and look at the shades compared to other brands, the Rock Candy collection unfortunately fell a little flat, especially in the shimmer department. So I definitely get it. And probably to no one's surprise, your first place winner for most disappointing release goes to Holo Taco's Underglow collection. I was kind of surprised to see this one take first place, especially because it had a decent amount of more votes than second place. Like I mentioned earlier, I know that there were a lot of people that didn't have great experiences with this release, but at the same time, I've seen a lot of people posting on Reddit that they had positive experiences and reviews for the collection. So it seems pretty mixed, but I can understand at the same time. Next, we have another new award. This one is for most underrated release. I thought this award was really cool to include because with how saturated the market is and with how often brands are releasing, it can be so easy to overlook some releases, especially from smaller brands. So my award for most underrated goes to Potion Polish's Autumn 2024 collection. This was such a stunning lineup of rich fall tones in these beautiful shimmery metallics and hollow jellies. I personally have only ever ordered from Potion Polish twice before, and I feel like they just don't release nearly as often as even other indie brands on the market, but their polishes are so beautiful. I just had to give them the award for this, but I did want to give an honorable mention to ILNP's watercolor collection. This was the quad of their jellies, which released earlier in the summer, and I was so excited for them. One, because I love jellies, but I feel like I have just been begging to see jellies from ILNP because they have a lot of jelly-based polishes already, but I was so desperate to see plain jellies from them, especially to offer a more affordable competitor to Cirque's jellies. So to see them release their quad, it was just so satisfying. I thought they were really great, but I feel like because not a lot of people who shop ILNP really care for like pure jellies, I just didn't see it being as talked about, or like it just didn't seem as exciting to other people, which I hope isn't the case because I would love to see more from ILNP, so I can only hope we'll get more next year. Their water collection actually came in second place according to the voters, tied with their velvet collection from the spring. I can totally see that because when that collection initially came out, I wasn't really loving it. I feel like it was a little bit of a letdown. I was just left wanting more from it. But more recently in the winter, I was like, wait a second, you know what? That collection was actually really nice. I guess these softer kind of magnetics just feel more cozy and plush during the winter than the spring for me. In first place though, you guys voted for Holo Taco's I Need Space collection. So I thought this was pretty interesting to see because I personally wouldn't call anything that Holo Taco releases as underrated, but I guess because of how frequently they release, I can see it being underrated compared to like their other releases throughout the year, or even just compared to other boutique releases. And then in third place, we actually had a 5-way tie between Mooncat's Seasons of Persephone, Cirque's Encore collection, ILNP's Vineyard collection, Crack's Italy collection, and Starly's Pie Day trio. When it came to those first three, I think I would agree the most with Cirque being underrated, but it's harder for me to agree with that for Mooncat or ILNP, especially those two specific collections, because I just thought they were so popular. I think I would even say the same about Crack's Italy collection, but it is underrated compared to like the other bigger boutique brands because Cracked is definitely a smaller indie. And I definitely was thinking this award would be more suited towards like a smaller indie brand because they just kind of get lost in the shadows of these bigger boutique brands and how often they release. So even though they only got like 1 or 2 votes each, I did want to highlight a couple of other indie brands that had some really beautiful collections this year, like Rogue Lacquer, Lurid Lacquer, Sweet and Sour, Plus Life, and Nail Polish. The next award we have is for Best PPU Theme and Polish. So PPU, if you don't know, stands for Polish Pickup, which is a monthly pre-order marketplace that has new themes every month, and it's always so fun to see how the same theme can be interpreted so many different ways by all the different brands that participate. It was honestly kind of hard for me to pick a winner for the best theme, but going off of my biggest haul, I would say that the best theme this year was Rewind. Now I know that can kind of be like a cop-out answer because we get Polish Pickup Rewind every year in July, but I can't help but feel like the other themes, while they were cool and while I was looking forward to a lot of them, they ended up leaving me a little bit like let down. In theory, I would have picked video games as my favorite theme because I love the idea of that. There's like so many awesome games that could have been turned into these really cool polishes, but I just didn't end up loving a lot of the offerings. You guys, however, did vote for video games, but it came in third place, tied with Natural Phenomenons. Second place went to the Nostalgic Toys theme, which was just recently, I think in November. ever. And no surprise, your best polish pickup theme this year went to vintage Halloween. I feel like this is another super anticipated one because they always do a Halloween theme. So it's not quite the same as having Rewind every year, because with the Halloween themes, there's always new polishes. So that definitely makes sense. When it came to the best PPU polish, this was also pretty hard because obviously there's so many that are released throughout the year. But I think one of my top favorites was Kathleen & Co.'s Rosary P, which I believe came out in January. That was this really cozy milk chocolate brown with this fiery red shimmer. I just loved it so much, and I thought that it was such a unique shade. Like, I had nothing like it in my collection, and I haven't seen a lot of other brands do something like it either, because a lot of the time with polish pickup, there's a lot of overlap with what we see with specific colors or finish combinations. I unfortunately didn't get a ton of the same responses from voters, which again makes sense because of just how many polishes there were. But in first place, there was a tie between Polish for Days, What Dreams Are Made Of, and Atomic Polish's Sour Apple Rings. I can totally understand these, especially Atomic Polish. I'm wondering if a lot of people didn't end up voting for that one because it's technically not a new shade. It only came back in Rewind this year, but it was originally released either last year or the year before. But since I picked Rewind as my best theme, I can definitely understand and respect voting for a Rewind polish too. This next award is definitely one of my favorites. It's called Nailed the Theme, and it's to highlight a brand's incredible execution of translating the collection theme through their polishes. My winner this year goes to Mooncat's Seasons of Persephone collection. I just think this color palette is so perfect, and more importantly, I love how the shades honor Persephone as both the goddess of the underworld and spring. I think there's such beauty in unifying the themes of life and death, and I just appreciate how Michelle's creative vision really came to life with this one. This collection actually came in second place according to voters, tied with ILNP's Vineyard collection, which I can definitely see too. I mean, like I mentioned before, this was definitely one of my favorite ILNP releases from the year. The colors and names especially were very fitting for the theme. In third place, we had another tie, this time with ILNP's Wildflowers collection and Holo Taco's Birthstones, which honestly, both of these could have also been my honorable mention, especially the Birthstones, because I don't know, I'm just such a sucker for a birthstone theme. So I'm naturally going to love any type of collection centered around that. And I feel like Holo Tacos was so beautiful with its variety of finishes, where they were all so sparkly, but still very different finishes from each other. It didn't really feel like repetitive by any means, which I really appreciate. And your first place winner was actually another tie, this time with Holo Taco's Dark Academia collection and Mooncat's Songs of Sirens. I'm honestly not surprised by either of these. I especially can agree with Mooncat's because they just take these themes and explore them so well through their colors and finishes especially. But either way, I am not surprised at all of these brands placing on the podium. And finally, we are at our last two awards, which honestly I think are the biggest ones. The first one is for Polish of the Year. This obviously goes to a nail polish that released this year that was talked about by everyone, and it was worth the hype. To absolutely no one's surprise, my polish of the year goes to ILNP's Flower Child. I absolutely adored this polish. Like I mentioned earlier, this is a trend that I just am always going to be a sucker for. And even though this is a color combination that we saw last year, I feel like ILNP releasing Flower Child this year just somehow topped all of the previous ones. I don't even really need to explain myself that much because Flower Child was also your top winner this year. In second place though, we had Mooncat's Maelstrom. This was another absolute beauty. It honestly is up there for me. I'm such a sucker for that dark teal blue sort of base packed with those iridescent flakies. It is just such a mesmerizing polish. And in third place, we actually had another tie, this time with Holo Taco Spyglass from the Royalty Quad, which was this really pretty, soft cornflower crushed hollow with this electric blue kind of shimmer. Super gorgeous shade. And the other polish that came in third was Mooncat's Fields of Lavender, which was the dusty purple with red magnetic shimmer. I feel like we definitely have seen that combination of red shimmers in purple bases before, and they're honestly really great, like another combination that's up there for me, but we just haven't seen that combo like we have in Fields of Lavender being a magnetic. It just looks so breathtaking, especially with the velvet effect. And the final award we have is for Brand of the Year. This goes out to the brand that consistently put out noteworthy collections throughout the year, and I am so excited to announce that my winner for Brand of the Year goes to Cracked Polish. Looking back on the year, I am so impressed with everything that Cracked has put out, because while I may not have loved every single polish that has come out, I still really appreciated them within the context of the collection. And I feel like the collections were so fun because Monique has this really creative take on her releases, and I honestly felt them getting better throughout the year. So it feels really rewarding to see so many more people recognize her brand after everything that she's done this year. Unfortunately, she wasn't as recognized by the voters, but she did come in third, which I think is still wildly impressive compared to what else is on the podium. In second place, we had a tie between Mooncat and Holo Taco, which I think was pretty interesting considering the fact that Mooncat didn't really release a lot this year, especially compared to last year where it was basically every month. And even though Holo Taco definitely had more releases this year, I definitely have seen a lot more negative feedback regarding those releases. And to no one's surprise, your Brand of the Year for 2024 goes to ILNP. They really won so many awards, so this one is not surprising. They really have put out so many beautiful collections throughout the year. Definitely released some of my new favorite polishes ever this year, and I just can't wait to see what they do next. So that wraps up my nail polish awards for 2024. As always, I can't wait to hear what you think of my winners this year, or just the winners in general as voted by the people. This year I had almost 200 submissions, which is more than double what I got last year, so it was really crazy to see. Again, a big thank you to everyone who participated in the survey. Speaking of that, I have seen the feedback and hear it loud and clear. Next year I will be doing multiple choice with photos. The reason I didn't want to do that is because I don't want to put the limits on who you guys are voting for, but I can totally understand with just how much is being released throughout the year. It is so easy to kind of forget what comes out, especially months and months ago. This year I had already paid for my survey, so I had to stick with it. But next year, I really hope I don't see anyone complaining about the multiple choice option. I should be able to still have an other category, so you can still write in a different response if it's not included initially. There are still going to be some awards that will require a write-in, like best PPU shade, best cream, or even just polish of the year, so just keep that in mind. But again, thank you to everyone who did participate, because I know it was definitely a lot since I had so many more awards this year. And a huge thank you to my partner Ryan, because he put all of the information together on the back end for me since I was a little behind on working on some of my other videos. So I really appreciate his help in gathering all the data, because without him, I wouldn't have had this video done in time. Anyway, let me know any and all thoughts that you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today and being a part of my nail polish awards. And more importantly, thank you so much for all of your support. My channel has nearly doubled since last year, and it's just so crazy to think, since I've only been doing YouTube for 2.5 2.5 years. So whether you're new to my channel or not, I greatly appreciate you being here. So thank you again. Have a happy new year, and I will see you in 2025. Bye.